Of all the animals in the world, why is Ganesha associated with a rat? Is it because he is the god who removes obstacles? Think about the rat. It is the one thing you don't want in your life. A problem that you cannot solve. You want to be rid of it, but it cannot. It escapes you. It hides in places that you can't even imagine. It burrows its way into your life in a way that is unfathomable. And that's exactly what a rat is. It symbolizes the problems of life. Ganesha tames the rat, domesticates it, holds it, prevents it from making a mess of your life. Another quality about the rat is that it is extremely fertile. It breeds so rapidly that it's almost representative of bounty, but from a very negative angle. And Ganesha is always associated with things that breed rapidly. In the animal kingdom it is the rat, in the plant kingdom it is grass. And therefore grass is also offered to Ganesha during rituals. So the rat at one level is a symbol of problems, at another level it is the symbol of bountiful fertility. And he belongs at the feet of Ganesha. Let's look at the stomach. Ganpati is called Lambodara, someone with a pot belly. In today's times where you must have a washboard abdomen, it looks very strange that everybody wants to worship a god who is renowned as someone with a huge pot belly. Traditionally in India, a man with a pot belly was considered a prosperous man. In fact, the god associated with treasures is Kuber, a yaksh. And a yaksh is typically associated with someone with a huge stomach. And that huge stomach in many ways represents his wealth. All the wealth that he has contained within himself. And it is not here, not in this image, but typically Ganesha will have around his stomach a serpent. And the peculiar trait of a serpent is that it molts. And at regular intervals it sheds its skin and new skin comes around it. In other words, the serpent is the symbol of renewal. And when you have the symbol of renewal around the pot belly, which is the symbol of wealth and treasures, you're effectively saying, or this god is representing in his form, wealth which is abundant and renews itself constantly. So every year the wealth keeps coming again and again and again. A Ganesha is associated with a pair of tusks. One of the tusks is always broken. The story goes that this tusk, according to one story, he hurled it at the moon in rage because the moon laughed at him. One day the moon looked down earth and found Ganesha, this large, gigantic, pot-bellied god, riding his little rat. And he wobbled his way through the forest and fell down. And this was such a funny sight that the moon burst out laughing. And in anger, we are told that Ganesha broke his tusk and hurled it at the moon, causing it to start waning. And one of the rituals that is followed during the festival of Ganesha is that you are not supposed to look at the moon during his worship. Another story goes that he used this broken tusk as his pen to write the Mahabharata. Ganesha is a scribe of the gods. He is said to have written down the scriptures narrated by Vyasa. Vyasa is not just the compiler of the Vedic scriptures, but also the author of the Mahabharata. And Ganesha wrote it down with this broken tusk. Tusks are arrogant symbols of masculine power in the elephant kingdom. In many ways, this wild, arrogant power has been tamed by breaking one of them. And this makes Ganesha not a ferocious, fearsome god, but a gentle, lovable god associated with the household life. Ganesha is associated with the modaka. Now, a modaka is prepared in a very interesting way. It is a container of a mixture of sweets wrapped in dough which has been steamed. If you look at it very carefully, it looks like a money bag. Sweets symbolize happiness. You give sweets, you distribute sweets whenever something wonderful happens in your life. Your son has done well in his exams, or your daughter has passed out from college, or there's a wedding in the family. Whenever you want to share a good news, you have sweets. And a modaka is basically a container of sweets. And that is what Ganesh is dear to Ganesha. The remover of obstacles is also the bringer of happiness. And it is represented in the modaka. If you look at the modaka carefully, it in many ways it looks like a money bag. If you had a bag containing money, it would take approximately the same shape. And if you look at the early images of Kuber, who is the lord of the yakshas, who are associated with treasures, he holds in his hand as a money bag. So some scholars believe that the origin of the modaka is from the money bags held by the yakshas, guardians of treasures. And Ganesha is often associated with yakshas. He is Ganapati, that is lord of the yakshas. If you look at Hinduism, it can be divided into three broad groups: the worship of Shiva, the ascetic; the worship of Vishnu, the worldly god; and the worship of Shakti, the mother goddess. Where does Ganesha fit in these three? While he is seen as the son of Shiva, he is more closely associated with his mother. And we know that because if you look carefully, he's always associated with the shoe flower, the hibiscus, known as Jabakusum. And this flower is offered to the mother goddess. He is the only male god who is very specifically offered this flower, which has a lot of medicinal properties. At the feet you can see the conch shells. Now unconsciously the artist, as they have for hundreds of years, brought in the symbols of the mother goddess along with Ganesha. Typically conch shells are associated with water and hence with the goddess. And once again we find this close association of Ganesha with water symbols. Like his pot belly, the conch shell makes up the mother goddess imagery. Ganesh is characterized by the elephant head. And to understand this head, we have to look at the story of his birth.